Generally speaking, Croatia is a European country from ever. That means our culture, our tradition was always European. But politically, unfortunately, Croatia was somehow separated, like your country, from European history, let's be honest, because of political reasons. Yeah. When I entered the office, when I was fighting for the office, I stressed, as Croatian government as well, that European membership is one of the most important goals. Definitely, the regional situation was also very important for our perception. Telling regional situation, I have to stress, you are aware of this fact that we had war. Our independence was gained through quite bloody war, and our historical experience, our historical memorying is quite focused on so-called homeland war. There were many casualties. Half of our country was destroyed, and of course relations with neighbors, especially with Serbia, whose political activities and troops participated in aggression against Croatia, is not easy task. So one of my main political thesis is that our regional policy is very connected to our European policy. That means European policy and regional policy are two sides of the same coin. What is the reason? Firstly, good relation with our neighborhood, namely Republic of Serbia, Montenegro, and Bosnia and Herzegovina on the east and Slovenia on the west are a matter of security and also a matter of our economy and development as well. The relations with Slovenia were always very good. We gained our independence on the very same day. And we had some border disputes, but this dispute was more or less resolved by negotiations and special treaty involving arbitration to make decision where are really the lines of the border. But situation with Serbia and Montenegro and Bosnia and Herzegovina is a little bit different because of the war. Let's start from Serbia. Serbia is a neighboring country on the east, and Serbia heavily participated in aggression on Croatia. Unfortunately, during the war, many people were killed, and I already told you at least 1/3, or between 1/3 and 1/2 of our country was under the fire, and it was many villages and towns were destroyed. The second important fact is that there is a large Serbian minority in Croatia, and there is not so large Croatian minority in Serbia. If we consider consequences of the war, we have to stress that we are still missing about 2,000 people, 1,900 Croats and Serbs as well. There is a very important issue of war crimes. At the very beginning, the relation was the fact that war crimes took place in Croatia and Bosnia and Herzegovina, and many of those war crimes are motivated by Serbian politics, politicians, and policies, is some kind of burden on our relations. At the very beginning, in 1993, the ICTY, the International Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia, was established, and Croatia and Serbia had some resistance to cooperate, and the approach to war crime was, yes, there were war crimes, but just the opposite side performed war crimes. Then another issue is also border issue on the river Danube between Croatia and Croatia and Serbia, and there are many economical issues like succession of the former country, former Yugoslavia, and many economical issues coming from the fact that during the war many enterprises owned by one or the other citizens were destroyed, or the property was taken by governments. Of course, behind everything is also emotional approach, because Croatian citizens consider Republic of Serbia responsible for the aggression. And from the other side, many Serbians consider Croatia responsible for refugees and their destiny, because there is a large number of people, of refugees of Serbian origin, but Croatian citizens living now in Serbia, and of course some of them willing to come back. Politically, there is no reason to postpone comeback of these people, but of course there is economical problem, because it's not enough to build the houses. We have to find working place and to enable those people to live from their work. Definitely, last year was somehow very important for relations between Croatia and Serbia, because we started with very important negotiations. Goodwill is performed by two governments and President Tadić and myself. At the very beginning of my mandate, we had first meeting, and then we pushed our governments, and not only governments but NGOs, citizens, to make new relations. Of course, it's not easy, because those burdens I told you about are still very important. Many people can hardly accept new relations, but we are fighting for them. And it's really in the best interest of Croatia and Serbia to resolve those issues from the war and to make our relations much better. It will be not easy, it's a long-term process, but we started it now. Now we have intergovernmental groups for every single problem I mentioned, and I hope that in the near future we will make our relations even better. Our other neighbor, Bosnia and Herzegovina, is also a very interesting country. It's composed of three national groups: Croats, Bosniaks, and Serbs. Croatians are the smallest group, and of course their position is the most sensitive one. We have the longest border with Bosnia and Herzegovina. It's more than 1,000 kilometers. And historically, we are very connected to Bosnia and Herzegovina, not only because we have a Croatian group, Croatian group in Bosnia and Herzegovina. They have constituency there, so they are not minority, and we have a Bosniak minority in Croatia. About 1% of our citizens are from Bosnian origins. The problems are also with borders, because the border is not defined definitely on the coast and on the north, west-north of Bosnia and Herzegovina. There are also many economical problems, also coming from the war and succession of former Yugoslavia. And there is a special problem connected to position of Croats in Bosnia and Herzegovina. As you probably know, Bosnia is divided in two entities. One is Republika Srpska. This is entity on the north, lying on the borders of River Sava. And this area is dominated by Serbs. Before the war, there were more than 200,000 Croats living there. Unfortunately now, after the war, there are just about 20,000. And now we started negotiations how to enable Croats mostly living in Croatia now to go back and to have their ownership, mostly land and the other ownership in Republika Srpska. It's the beginning of the process. Definitely not all of those people will go back, but now we are trying to establish new economical relations and to motivate people to participate in this process, establishing businesses, even to go back to this area. It's a very important area because in future there will be no border. It will be very same if you live on the left or the right side of the river Sava, because both countries, like Serbia as well, like Montenegro as well, will be members of EU. Now there is ongoing process how to establish relations in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Croatia is trying, of course, not to interfere with internal relations in Bosnia and Herzegovina, but we would like to help processes to establish appropriate position of Croats in Bosnia and Herzegovina, because legally under the Dayton Agreement and Washington Agreement, Croats are not in the same position to participate in political life as two other nations, as Bosniaks and Serbs. Now they have quite interesting period in their political life, fighting for different solutions. We are watching what's going on there and supporting pro-European forces in Bosnia and Herzegovina and equality of nations. Our third neighbor, Montenegro, is a relatively small country on the south, southeast. It's also a Mediterranean country. We share one bay, very important for them and for us as well. And the border issue is the only one that is open between two countries. There is provisional agreement on the border, and my colleague, Mr. Paro, participated in negotiations. I'm very proud of him. And I hope that the governments will find appropriate solution. But I have to stress, those border issues between Croatia and Montenegro, Croatia and Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Croatia and Serbia are not dangerous from security point of view. No military engagement there, no any fights, no any physical dispute on in this area. So it's matter of diplomacy, it's matter of negotiations, and I think it's a big changement in this area, because now we are discussing very sensitive things normally, and it was not possible several years ago. Now, having in mind all the region, it's very important to stress that new spirit is now born. What is the difference? Several years ago, there was some kind of competition between those countries, and not always on fair basis. And now we have the common interest, and the new relations are built. That means all countries in the region are willing to be members of EU, and that's very important for our future. Croatia will be the first country entering EU. I hope we are going to finish our negotiations till the end of June, and then agreement, ratification process. If not in June, it will be till the end of the year. It's now a matter of days, not a matter of years. And our neighbors are unfortunately a little bit more far from this goal. They have to start their process, and it's not always easy to fulfill all requirements. You have experience, we have this experience, and we have a very firm political decision to support our neighbors on the European way. For the beginning, we had one, I think, a very important gesture by Croatian government. Our Lady Prime Minister Kosor delivered a translation of the acquis to the Bosnian government, to the Serbian government. It's some kind of saving expenses, but also it's a matter of gesture that shows our support to the European way. And as President Tadić stressed, as 3 members of presidency of Bosnia and Herzegovina stressed, their interest is to see Croatia as soon as possible in the EU, and our interest is to support all those countries, all 3 countries, and to see them as well as soon as possible in European Union. Somehow we hope that common membership will make all these processes much more easier, and this area will be again an area of the peace and security. Also, we have quite compatible economies, and we are widening our markets, trying to export more and more in the region, and we are also supporting, all governments are supporting now mutual trade, but also common projects, common economical projects, and we have now a good example of common approach to the third markets, especially in Africa and Asia. Finally, our societies are different, but in the same time relatively similar. Our language is similar; we can understand each other completely. For many years, many friends were found from both sides, and finally, now we have similar cultures. Definitely, the perspective of cooperation in the region is a good one. But it's not easy to build new relations after so many conflicts we had in the last 2 decades. Experience of the Balkans shows that probably international supervision have to be performed in areas with similar but competing and fighting states and nations. And we also think what will be the result of different approach of international community in the region. Unfortunately, the result in our region was the worst one. We had war, and war is something that's probably the worst thing that can happen to any nation. So the policy of the Republic of Croatia is, of course, to protect our interests. That's part of every governance, but also to be very careful and to build new relations in the region, and to support our European policy by also building better relations with all those countries. Yes, we have some doubts in among our political parties. Many politicians, or some politicians, have some concerns. Is it good for us to be involved in Balkans again? What's our position? Is it better possibly to build big wall between us and the southeast of Europe? But definitely, cooperation is our best interest. I'm stressing again, from the security point of view and from economical point of view. Little by little it's recognized among politicians, and most of political parties in Croatia now supports cooperation between Croatia and Bosnia and Herzegovina, Croatia, Serbia, Croatia, Montenegro, and now most of politicians support common projects of those countries in the region. Now we are entering probably the critical phase of our relations, because now we have to perform very concrete results. We have to gain concrete results. Now, in my opinion, it's definitely time to resolve border issues between all countries. We were postponing this for 20 years, but now it's time to do it, if not possible by negotiations, then by some kind of arbitration or participation of the International Court of Justice. Secondly, especially concerning relations with Serbia, it's really probably the most important thing from the political and from emotional point of view to resolve the destiny of missing persons. I'm again stressing that we are still missing about 2,000 persons, Croats and Serbs, and their families are very, very interesting what really happened with them. They would like to find their graves and to pay respect to them. Together with politicians from Bosnia and Herzegovina and from Serbia, President Tadić, members of presidency, Croatia and myself introduced new type of policy. We are commemorating victims together. And that's very important, especially it's very important in Srebrenica in Bosnia and Herzegovina when a real genocide took place. More than 7,000 persons, were mostly Bosniaks, were killed there. There are also mass graves in the other areas of Bosnia and Herzegovina, but in Croatia as well. We have a really important important town, it's Vukovar, where more than 200 persons, mostly people from hospital, wounded persons were killed on Ovčara, it's one field near Vukovar. And we also visited some mass graves, places of suffering of some Serbs in Croatia as well. And I consider that it's very important to pay emotional satisfaction to victims and their families, and this is the only basis for new relations between peoples, between ordinary people and states as well. So if you ask me whether I'm optimist or not, I'm always optimist. I think Croatia will finish our negotiations very soon. I'm also optimist concerning relations between our countries, because historically we are connected. We have much more arguments to work together than to quarrel. And my approach is always to resolve the present problems. I think this generation of politicians should not leave the problems to the next generation. It's our responsibility, and all presidents, governments, ministers in the region should contribute to this very important goal for our future. Thank you very much.
Well, first of all, dobar dan, dobrodošli. I would like to ask, what were the main obstacles at the beginning and during the whole process of the accessions? Was it war legacy or cooperation, ICTY, or I don't know, neighborhood cooperation? And what good experience and what recommendations could you suggest to the other Western Balkan countries that are just starting the negotiating process? Thank you.
Cooperation with the ICTY was a really important issue in negotiations. I'm a relatively new politician. Before I became politician 5-6 years ago, I was member of NGOs, and one of my field of interest was international criminal law. As professor, I was also involved in this. And from the very beginning, I followed the ICTY. And it's a very interesting phenomena because after Nuremberg, the ICTY and the Tribunal for Rwanda were first attempts to involve international justice. From the very beginning, most or all the countries and most of politicians thought that the ICTY is for the others, not for ourselves, because just the others performed war crimes. But very soon it was recognized that the ICTY has, or tended to have balanced approach. That means, yes, we recognize that all sides participated, not in the same level, not in the same numbers, because definitely the number of indicted Serbs are much bigger than the other. There were 161 indictees and more than 100 or 120 were Serbs, something like this. But it was very sensitive political issues as well, especially in Croatia when we considered ourselves as victims of aggression. And it was not easy to advocate that even defending your country you can become war criminal. And cooperation of Croatia from the beginning of the ICTY till 2000 was relatively poor. In spite, in 1996, we enacted a special constitutional law on cooperation between the Republic of Croatia and the ICTY, enabling all possible means of cooperation. The practice was a little bit different, and there were some obstruction on the practical level. But after 2000, all governments, left, right, even especially present government, was very dedicated to cooperation with the ICTY, and all demands from the ICTY were fulfilled. The prosecutor Carla Del Ponte officially stated that cooperation is complete and satisfying. But unfortunately later, when new prosecutor Brammertz took the office, he thought that probably not all documentation was delivered to The Hague. So-called artillery files were missing. It was artillery files on action, as we call it, Storm. It was the last big action when Croatia liberated occupied areas on the south of our country. The government was not hiding the documents. The mistake was done during this first period before 2000, because in that time some part of our administration was opposing cooperation and even destroying some documents and so on. And definitely now it's not possible to find these files, and definitely no one in Croatian government is willing to risk our European future because of 20 pieces of paper. After we arrested and delivered even our generals, it will be really senseless to risk because of 20 papers. I think now it's recognized even by the ICTY and especially by European politicians. And now we are trying to establish what really happened with this file 10 or 11 years ago. And all other requests, there were thousands of requests, were fulfilled. So, in my opinion, I was criticizing previous Croatian governments before 2000 for not cooperating with the ICTY, but now I'm relatively involved. I know all the facts. I'm president, so I'm aware what's really going on, and there is no any hidden agendas under the table. So, that is concerning the ICTY. The other important areas are also connected to justice, but internal justice. After Croatia became an independent country, there was tendency to dismiss judges and some prosecutors that were acting through socialist period. There were also some tendencies, I have to be honest to you, to motivate some Serbs to go out from judiciary as well. And there were also economical reasons, because in that time the salary in the judiciary was very low. The salary of judge was about 150 euros, and as a private lawyer you could earn 20, 30 times more. And that was the reason the best judges went out from the system. Unfortunately, we had some judges politically elected, some of them, and some of them were very young and unexperienced. So it happened that the judiciary was not capable to fulfill the main duty to resolve social conflicts because they were unexperienced. All judicial posts for judges were not all judges were elected, so we had lower number of judges than needed, much lower, and the result was about 2 million unresolved cases. 2 million unresolved cases, many of them lasting for 20, 30 years, even more. We even had cases older than judges. The judge had the case that's older than himself. The judge was about 30 and the case was 35 years old. And obviously it was an important obstacle to the rule of law and to rights and interests of our citizens. It was also an obstacle to the economy, because the enterprises and business should be protected by judiciary as well. And so it was not a matter of big numbers, 2 million unresolved cases, but it was a matter of economy, human rights, and everything. And very important reforms were taken in our judiciary, and now we can easily recognize that the number of unresolved cases is cutted. Now we have about 700,000 unresolved cases, but it's not tragedy, because yearly we have about 1 million of new cases. That means we can resolve it in 1 year, and it's okay. But still we have problem of some not too big number of old cases. That means 5 years and more. And that's probably one of the main objections to our judiciary. Also, under the 23rd chapter, that means judiciary justice, we have this problem of refugees from Serbia. Many Croatian citizens of Serbian origins left Croatia at the end of the war, and many of them now are back, definitely. And there is no any obstacle, political obstacle or security obstacles, but there is economical. Half of those villages were burned down, and there are no houses. And now we have special action plan, and Croatia is rebuilding all the houses, not only for Serbs, for Croats, for everyone. So we are not making difference between our citizens. And of course now it's not only economical problem, it's also political problem, and there is special political agreement between Croatia and Serbia how to resolve this problem. Now it's lasting for many years. There are also many Croats being refugees from Bosnia, from Serbia as well. So this refugee situation must be resolved now. And now we are planning to make the last very important effort to, from one side, to build houses for all refugees left now. And from the other side, there is fact that many of those people are not willing to come back, because we have this situation among Croats as well. They left 20 years ago. They have new families, new jobs, new living places, and then they do not have interest to go in some small village, in so-called Dalmatinska Zagora or somewhere else, very poor areas. So now we are involving new plan, and we are going to ask people to decide whether they are willing to come back, and then they will have their flats and their homes, or they are willing to stay in Serbia, and then there will be special international fund to help them to have their houses and flats in Serbia. That's very important, because this refugee issue must be resolved. Definitely, it's a burden on our society. It's a burden of relations between Croatia and Serbia as well. Then, under 23rd chapter, we have to strengthen some minority issues as well. As I already told you, Croatia is having a big Serb minority. Before the war, it was more than 10, even 20%. Now we estimated that 6% of our citizens. Now we'll see what will happen, because now we are making new, census, yes, new census. Preparing new census, and we have not only Serbian minority, we have Hungarians, we have Czechs, Slovaks, Italians, and the other, we have Slovenians, Bosniaks, Albanians. We have special constitutional law on right on minorities, and probably if you read it, you can hardly find something similar in the Europe. That means the rights are really extensive. They have guaranteed places in the parliament. In spite of the number, it happens that someone is elected from minority group with 300 votes in the parliament. But okay, it's price for satisfaction of minorities in Croatia. And generally speaking, we don't have any problems with minority, but of course we have some problem with Serbian minority. Because of the war and relations coming from the war. But what's a good sign is that now we have a Serbian party participating in the government. We have deputy prime minister who is from Serbian party. We have many politicians who are Serbs, but not from the Serb party, but being involved in the other parties as well, social democrats mostly. So this kind of political integration is now on a very high level. We have our constitutional law is envisaged quite extensive rights of our minorities, a right to participate in local governments, a right to participate in judiciary, in army structures, right to be educated in their language, to use their language in certain areas when there is significant number of members of particular group. So more or less we are fulfilling all these very ambitious provisions from the constitutional law, still trying to make better participation in administration. It's not always fulfilled.
Dobar dan I dobrodošli. Your Excellency, since today in Brussels the representatives of Kosovo and Serbia are starting the second roundtable talks, I am wondering about the foreign policy towards your neighbors, Kosovo and Serbia, since you are stressing that Croatia is trying to combine the regional cooperation and the membership of the EU.
Croatia recognizes Kosovo, and that's the main point of our policy. So Croatia is among 75, as I remember, states recognizing Kosovo. But in the same time, we are trying to perform our policy not to spoil relations with Serbia in the very moment, in the very same moment. Somehow this is relatively successful because we have good relations with Kosovo and we have better and better relations with Serbia. And I would really appreciate very much some kind of consensus between Kosovo and Serbia, and that will make relations in the whole region much easier than now. So looking forward to negotiations and the result.
Your Excellency, having in mind that Croatian society in general is Catholic and Christianity is an important issue in European Union, how do you see a contribution of Croatia towards the development of Christian values in Europe?
Most of Croats declare themselves as Catholics. And the role of the Church was always very important, especially during the period when Croatia was not independent, the church was one of focus of national feelings, keeping national tradition, and even making some kind of cohesion in our nations. But of course, from the other side, we are a secular state. And we are promoting the role of Catholic Church that is out of daily politics. It's not always the fact, but more or less now the situation is satisfying. We have special agreement between Vatican and Croatia defining position of Catholic Church. I think it's very good position. And Croatian Catholic Church is very active in international frame as well. But from the other side, the Catholic Church is not deciding on policy. I think I'm the best example. I'm not Catholic. I very openly declared before election that I'm agnostic. Yes, some part of the church was advocating against me, but the result was, as you see, different. That means that our citizens are in favor of church. Most of them are in favor of tradition, religion, but separating this from the politics. And that's very important.
Mr. President, Croatia is at the very end of accession negotiations. At this stage, your country should have probably at least a working assumption on what is the date for accession for Croatia. Or meaning, when you say at the date of accession, what date does your country has in mind?
So, our optimistic schedule is to finish our negotiations till the end of June. Then we have to organize a referendum. It's very important to organize it before elections, because now we are in election period. It's very important not to match elections and referendum to avoid that some citizen will decide on government, not on our European membership. And everything can be organized in this scenario till the end of the year, and then there is ratification process. We hope that it can be finished during 2012, and our best scenario, optimistic scenario, but realistic as well, is our membership on the 1st of January 2013. That is something that we'll be very pleased with.
And to follow up with this question, what is your feeling about the referendum in Croatia? Because that's, I think, also an important subject, probably.
At the very beginning of our negotiations, we had support of about 80% of our citizens. Now it's dropped. It dropped about a little bit more than 50%, but that does not mean that 49 or 48 of our citizens are against. There are about 38 against and 52 or something like this in favor. It depends on the type of research. I always faced with question, what is the reason that the support dropped from 80 to 50 something? The reason is, there are several reasons. One is that the negotiations are lasting for too long period, and we have some kind of frustration among our citizens because we are doing something and then we fulfill something and then we ask for more and then we fulfill more and then there is something new, and after we fulfill this there is another issue. So there is some feeling of unjust approach to Croatia. Yes, definitely Croatia is asked much more, or there are much more demands towards Croatia than to Bulgaria, Romania, and even some earlier members. But that's life. There is a club called European Union. We would like to be members of the club, and we have to fulfill requirements, not them. So we have to adapt ourselves. The second reason is that there is some opinion that some of our economical problems, even unemployment, is connected to our negotiations, especially in some areas of economy. There is also widely spread fear of our peasants, that they will be destroyed due to agricultural policy of EU. Then there is also some kind of fear for national identity as well. So we are so small, we are about 4.5 million, and we are entering union with about 500 million. What will happen with us? Are we going to have invasion of, I don't know, not Latvian, not Lithuanian, not Estonian, but some German, French people, Poles, who knows, some big nations. Are they going to move to our Adriatic coast?
Italians.
Italians, yes. What will happen? Of course, this is part of mythology. And if we consider our political scene, there is all leading political parties are in favor. There are just several or two small, relatively small right parties, very right parties advocating against. But there is a part of NGO scene, some part of civil society being afraid of our EU membership. And now in next period, that we might ask as well to convince our citizens that EU is good for Croatia.